Hello and welcome to TCG Buzz. Today, we have a special guest joining us to talk about the many lessons that we have all learned as game designers. Today, we are joined by Zack from Chaos Galaxy TCG. He has an incredible series of his devlog of designing card games. It's both educational and entertaining, and me and two Lainz here are both really big fans, so we're really excited to have you join us.
Thanks, I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, Jacob told me that he got you for an episode, and I'm like, I have to be on it. It doesn't matter what the topic is. I'm gonna be here.
Oh yeah, glad to be here.
You make a series of videos talking about your design as you are designing almost in real time a new trading card game while providing tips for people who are in the same position you are. This is not your first game. You've designed quite a few by the looks of it. You're one of those people like us who just can't stop making games, right?
Yeah. So I think I've made 16 games in total between ages 8 and I'm 29 now, so still ongoing.
For my own credentials, I am a game designer. I have uh, product placement here. It's a little green screened out. This is my game Junk World. I made this. It's on store shelves. It's cool. I am also, amongst many other things, I do contractual work for many other game companies, and I am the director of the Caster Chronicles. Real cool stuff going on for me right now with game design.
Here. No, I dabbled with making cards when I was like 12. They're really bad. And then many stories probably sort of go like this, but during COVID, I was like, Team APS videos, Yu-Gi-Oh! I used to play that. And then it went from there until like, what if I got every card game? That would be fun. And then I was like, well, I could take all this and maybe make a game. So I'm not quite to the published game level, but hopefully this year that'll change.
So today we're going to be going over 10 lessons we have all collectively learned as game designers making games that hopefully will help you if you're someone out there who you want to make a game, but you're a little intimidated by the process, or you're in the process of making a game and you're struggling, or if you think you're acing making your game right now, chances are there are still some things you could improve upon.
I think our first one is actually something that Zack did really well in his new series, Making a TCG, which was to start simple and work your way up. And I think this was edited and combined with a different point I had, but I'm going to read it this way. Zack's first episode has no art. I don't even think you had names. You had like X, 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 X. And it's just like, I made the system and I'm going to get playing the game ASAP. Like, don't spend so much time trying to perfect your game before you've ever played it. You need to get playing as soon as you can to figure out if your game works.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I do the same. When I designed my game Junk World, the first version of the cards had no card effects. It was just literally numbers on a piece of blank paper, and it was just to test the bare skeleton of the system. And I always say, if your game is fun to play with no abilities, you're on the right track.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think so. I did do some art as the first thing, but I'm a graphic designer at heart. I had to kind of get it out of
You
my
can't
system.
help it.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I think in the first episode of my game, it was literally just X, a number, a stat on paper, a level. And then I kind of made a point of showing this where I just play the cards, run around the other side of the table, play another card, run back round, roll the dice, play another card. And it's so stupid doing it, but it's part of the process that needs to be done before you can have a good game.
I think the first the first time that I played my game, me and the guy I was making it with were on Tabletop Simulator, and we just had like face down playing cards, which I don't have. Here's a Digimon card that's definitely a playing card, and we were just like moving things around and be like, all right, so like one side maybe they like put a bunch of stuff face down and like they turn around one at a time, and like, is there a grid? Is this how this works? Like there was no game really. We were like feeling it out. We were like sort of playing it in quotation marks before there even was a game.
Yeah, I think there's a thing in a lot of game designers where they don't want to play their game until it's ready. And I think that's inherently the antithesis of actually making something good. You need to start out small and get that experience in with it and be comfortable with playing it before you can make those big iterations that can really change and define your game. Number two on this list is one that I personally really struggle with. I've never been good at organization, but I do my absolute best because it is so important to stay organized with your games. I personally have a Google Drive folder for each of the games I design where everything goes in them, so I know they're in the same place. And Zach, I've seen your spreadsheets; they're amazing. Uh, Congratulations on keeping those well organized and having the skills and the mindset to make them actually useful.
Thank you for picking up on that, because I always worry it makes for very uninteresting YouTube content. It's like people want to see art,
Here's
they
my
want to see battles.
spreadsheet.
No one wants to see me make a spreadsheet, but it is one of the most important things for a game, especially like it gets exponentially more important as a game goes on too. Like your first set of 100 cards, 100 cards, you can kind of envision them all in your head. But when you come to making that third set and you kind of need to remember something that was in set two, it just becomes a nightmare. And yeah, it is important, and it's one of those jobs that it needs to be done. You don't think about it when starting to make a game, and you don't think it's that important, but later you will thank yourself.
And I've actually, because again, I am not naturally very good at organization. I've had times where I was building a project, working on it, and then later on brought other people in and they're like, okay, so I need this thing or that thing from you. And it's like, okay, so is that stored on my C drive on my computer, in my Google Drive? Is it over here, over there? Did I delete it? Is it somewhere else completely? That is not how you want to be doing things for your project long term. Just start that habit of hoarding everything and keeping them organized early on, and you will have no problems long term. And while you're at it, if you really care about your project, it is always a good idea to have some sort of backup of it just in case, a secondary place. I'm a big data hoarder guy, despite my terrible organization. I have a lot of my important files stored in 3, 4 different places, some offsite, some on site. I wouldn't necessarily say you have to go that far, but you should probably, if your files are really important to you, have some sort of backup.
I don't want to say I'm the final boss of this, but it seems like we have a spectrum going on. And we have a GitHub, which is like a code version control thing, but it like holds all the pictures for my game. It holds like most of the card frame information. And then my spreadsheet for my game is fed into a program called Nandeck, which can it's sort of like data merge, if you've heard of that, where you can take like your card frame and like the words that are supposed to go on it, and you hit generate and it like puts them all together and makes you basically gives you the card. So my spreadsheet is the game. Like that's the exact words that are in the game. So
You win.
we definitely keep good spreadsheets
The
and
moment you
information.
brought up GitHub, you
GitHub, yeah. I was like, because we were like, we had one person that like had the information, and we were like trying to like Google Drive or like email or Discord the pictures to each other, and I was like, I've had enough. Here's this GitHub. We get all three of the devs on it, and if you have changes, push to the GitHub. And then on our Discord, whenever we do gameplay changes, we do like little patch notes that I don't know if how many people read them, but I like to have them so I can be like, this card doesn't do what it used to do. I forgot. Why did we change that? And I scroll up through the patch notes or something like, oh, that's why we changed it.
One thing I think I'd also say on a similar note is just keep any information you can. Like, doesn't matter where you're storing it. If you have that thought for a card ability, don't think, oh, I'll write that down when I get home. Just stop what you're doing, put it in your notes in your phone. If you see a cool, I don't know, something in the street that strikes your interest, take a photo of it to put it in a card later. Like, you just need to kind of keep everything. All those work in progress drawings that you think will be useless, like keep them, because you never know when you're going to use it, even if it's not in in your game. It could be in a game you make like in like 5 years time or someone else's game that you're helping out on. Like
I was talking with somebody, I think, about Yu-Gi-Oh! And somehow pendulum monsters came up, and somehow I was just like, I should put pendulums in my game. Like just the scale thing, because my game has like, a face down row of cards, and for one side is an asymmetrical game. And I was like, well, I could like make the card, like the order matter somehow. Like if the first one or the last one have like the right numbers, then you can do things, which will tie into another point later. Oh,
Yeah, I have a big problem personally with having an idea for something and then going, I'll get to that in 10, 15 minutes. And then I go, okay, what was that thing I was thinking about?
no,
So
yeah,
I have very much trained myself. In my case, what I do, because I need like the quickest way I can get that idea down is I'll use like the voice recorder on my phone, and I'll just ramble into the phone for a minute about how we should adjust our entire power curve in the game because our balance makes math a little too hard. So we need to curve down everything by 2 digits. And then I
boy.
just ran that into my phone, and then I forget that recording exists, and then I don't make the changes.
Very relatable point, though.
Absolutely. The next thing on our list is one I am going to pass over to Lainz because this is your entire identity as a person, I think.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah.
this is the
Play!
soapbox.
Play a lot of games! Richard Garfield said to do it, so you should do it. Uh, my whole shtick, play a bunch of games. Doesn't even have to be trading card games. It could be any games. My game is based on Monster Hunter, the video game franchise. I really like Monster Hunter, and I'm like, what if that was a PvP card game and not co-op? Well, how would I do that? And then you start pulling like, here's this thing from. We're gonna use this thing from Varia. Is that up here somewhere? No, my well, I'm gonna pull a thing from Varia. I'm gonna pull a thing from Primal's The Awakening. I just num 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 num.
I recently had a game that had a good setup, although it had a really lacking resource system. And then I was playing another game, and it was just like, it was Grand Archive I was playing. And I was like, I'm stealing that. Playing games is the way that you get inspiration for your games. I've talked about this before, but Richard Garfield himself, in one of the many articles he wrote about game design, he's like, "Yeah, hi, I'm the famous TCG game designer guy, board game designer. Here is my game, King of Tokyo. It sold like 16 bajillion copies.
I
Here's
love that game.
everything I ripped off."
When you rip off enough things at once, it ceases being a rip off.
Exactly.
I just mentioned the pendulum thing. Like we were talking about Yu-Gi-Oh. Like I know what pendulums are. I'm like, I would put that in my game. How can I put that thing that everyone doesn't like?
Yeah. No, it's definitely it's the whole standing on the shoulders of giants kind of. It's we're all sort of in it together as kind of card game creators. I think just keep building on each other and yeah, definitely. It's quite hard to have an original thought these days as well. Like there are very few things that I think haven't been done.
Yeah, it's always funny when somebody describes their game and I could be like, "Oh, so it's like this one thing from this one game," and they're like, "I mean, I guess, yeah, I haven't played that, but."
Mhm. Which brings up another one of our points, which is to get help from the community. There are so many amazing resources from weird nerds like the three of us who love helping other people make their games. Find them and use them, whether it be groups on like Tabletop Aces or the Homemade TCG Discord server, where you can directly go in and ask for feedback for your games and ask questions to other game designers. Whether it's amazing videos like the ones that Zack has made or this one right here, clearly you're on the right step if you're watching something like this. I think there are a lot of people out there who think that game design is a insular bubble. There's this idea of being the single solo dev who works in his basement for a decade making Cave Story, and it becomes a huge hit of a game, and it's all me, all mine, right?
Thought you were doing a bit that somebody would spend a decade and come out and be like, "I have made Magic the Gathering, but there are no lands."
That has happened.
That happens pretty often. Maybe not the decade part, but
Don't be afraid to ask for or search for help. There's a lot of great advice out there. You just have to find it. You want my treasure? I left everything together in one place. You just have to find it.
For sure. And I think-
yayo, dreaming. Don't give it up, Luffy. Dreaming. Don't give it up, Zolo.
What's crazy is this is the second time in a video that you have sung One Piece music.
No, well, I guess you could call that One Piece music.
Sorry, Zach, you were saying we had to interrupt for something very important.
It's all good. I want to hear the rest of the song, to be honest. But
Oh no. Here's how the story goes. We find out about a treasure in the Grand Line. There's no doubt.
No, I was going to say, I think it's as a sort of card game nerd, it's in our nature to be more introverted and have, this kind of deep, narrow interest of your card game. And I'm definitely guilty of just sitting in my bedroom, spending ages developing games on my own. And it's only, when you get out there, start talking to other people, bouncing off their ideas and even playing, that you don't have a game until you've got to that point, really. And then it just motivates you so much when you play a game and like figure out a mechanic that works with someone else. Is, I think for me, would be the biggest motivator to kind of make the game better. Like, oh, if I can impress this person online who knows about card games and like they think my game's good, there's kind of no better feedback than that, really.
A great example is, this exact episode would not be happening right now unless I didn't just send you an email and say, hey man, I like your stuff. Can we like hang out?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
I just like my friends' card games. I'll be like, hey man, I just made an archetype for your game. Like, here you go. Like, I just like making cards for other people's games sometimes. Are they good or bad? I don't know. That's not, I'm just trying to come up with some interesting idea. Whether it's good or balanced, that's on them if they want to use it.
Yeah. But that's the biggest compliment you can give a game, like making a card for it and just offering it up to someone. Like, that's so cool.
Yeah, I've done that with Lainz game Predator Prey. There was one day I just dumped a bunch of really stupid ideas for monsters on your lap, and it said, use these or don't use these. The answer was don't use these, but I just wanted to get them out there because I was excited about your game and I like game design. I was like, so what if we had a ghost guy?
I mean, that could still be cool. I'll have to go back and look. Yeah, there's so many ideas, especially for monsters in that game.
That does bring me to another one of our points, and this is another Two Lanes original, which is playtesting your game in unexpected ways. I think there's a lot of the time people, when they're designing their game and playtesting it, they're thinking of how things should be instead of how they are. I talked about in one of our other episodes the very famous example of a certain Richard Garfield made game where they introduced new card types into the game and it ruined the game because they just never thought, hey, what if you just use this card type and you don't use anything else? They figured, no, players will have a balance of all the card types in their decks. Surely they won't just jam all of one of them together.
They will make the stupidest deck you've ever imagined, and you're like, that's not how it's supposed to be. And then they're like, but you allow it to know? I poked Zack one time, I'm like, hey, what if I don't play anything until I'm on like level 3 or 4 Evolver? What happens if you do that?
I remember that comment specifically and having a bit of a brain explosion at the time. But no, I think it is really important, and it links to the last point well, like get the community involved, because you look at your own game in such a unique way that other people will not see it in that same light. And you do need people to question these things. And to answer that comment months later, basically just making your stage 4 Evolver have an incredibly powerful ability when it dies sort of stops that.
People will break your game.
Yes.
You just got to be ready for that.
It is inevitable.
You will never catch all of the ways that people will break your game. But if you go into your game with the mindset of trying to break it yourself, you're going to catch a lot of that. I've had times where I just completely miss stuff, but it's not just a like indie novice or thing like that. Magic the Gathering very famously had it when it was first created because it was the first TCG. Technically, Trumps is the first TCG, but
Channel for
that's
19,
yeah.
Fireball.
You channel for 19. I was gonna go for it. The first like dominant deck in Magic the Gathering was 40 copies of Lightning Bolt, 20 Mountains, because they never thought that people would buy enough cards that they need to have a limit of each card in your deck.
Or they thought that no one would have enough cards to where you'd have like multiple Black Lotuses or something.
That type of thing happens to everyone. You have to try to accommodate that. And when it actually comes up in playtesting, you got to address it. You can't just say, oh, well, you played the game wrong.
Yeah, I don't know about a lot. I've entered a fair few indie game tournaments with the goal to see like how much can you break the game. But there's
You're
one where
evil.
I think I found like an equip card that stunned whatever it attacked, so it couldn't attack next turn. And then there was like one guy that could attack 3 times, so you just stun everything your opponent has, and just kind of keep doing that over and over again, and they can never do anything. Uh, there was one me and my friend Gree found where uh, there was like some card that played a card from your discard pile, and there was a way to like infinitely loop that kind of thing. And there was like a speed gauge. This is for rail grind, where you got points by doing a specific game action, and it was based on how much speed was in your speed bar. But there was a deck we made with the character that didn't care about the speed gauge at all, which is like the whole game, because there were a couple cards that were like gain points. So we just made this one deck that didn't do any of the things the game wanted you to do. And it was just like, that probably shouldn't be that way.
I had one when I was playtesting Echoes of Astra for
Ooh,
their rule book, where the equip cards, think like Magic the Gathering's equip cards, uh, their intention was that you could only equip them to your units. But I
mm,
happened to notice it didn't actually say that in the rule book. So I found a way to cheese it by equipping them to my opponent's units.
that's good. That's good stuff.
That type of thing, it happens. That's the another point on our list is very much related to that is perfect is the enemy of good, or even more importantly,
Done.
released.
Yeah.
I am someone who likes making games. That means I like making my games good. And you see this game right here. This is Junk World. Junk World, you can buy it right now. It's available on speedrobogames.com. This game has problems. There are things that if I was starting over today, I would change about it. But it's out. It's a finished game. Are there things I would rather have done slightly differently or tweaked or changed? Absolutely. You are going to have that when you come out with a game and you're like, oh, I could have done this differently. Or, oh, actually, that's a really good point someone made after the fact. But there are a lot of game designers out there who chase the perfect game. And that will lead to, hi, I'm on revision 18 of my game
I've
because
been working on it for 10 years and I
I had
have not released anything yet.
and I did completely remake this game a couple of times before I thought I was at a good point. And I remember there was one point where there was a minor change that I would have wanted to make things slightly more understandable in this game that would have required essentially starting over from scratch. And I talked about it with my business partner, Rydon, and it was like, so this is bugging me. And he's like, yeah, okay, but no, our Kickstarter's tomorrow, buddy. you know,
You can't start the game over. It's too late for that.
Yeah, that's definitely something I've experienced a lot. But I think it then creates a new challenge. Like I, this is a pretty controversial opinion, but I think that the rules for a TCG really don't need to be perfect. But what you should try and do is then make the cards perfectly apply to those rules. Because you'll keep releasing cards once you've made the rules. Like once you've done the rules, that's it. but you just have to cater the cards to make it work. And then people will inevitably break them, or you'll make mistakes and make cards that are broken. But, it's too late. You've got to work with what you've got. And I think,
I
yeah,
you
yeah,
definitely want to make sure the rules are like pretty good. Maybe this is
yes,
I don't know how this example works because the game's done really well, but I don't know if you know Riftbound, the League of Legends card game that's out now.
yes.
They did not have a definition for damage or healing, I don't think, until they released the game, like in their rules. Like they've like edited their rules when the first set came out, and then they edited part of the rules again when the second set came out. That's a little it seems like they play tested the game off of vibes and didn't really make the rules until afterward.
Yeah, that's not great. I think, yeah, my my point, I guess, is have terms for things. Like, make sure you
Yeah.
make sure you know what you're doing. But it
You
doesn't
don't
have
have to
to be
account for
like the
every little
perfect
edge
game.
case. You can always edit the rules. You can't edit the cards once they're out. I
Mm.
mean, I guess you can, but
Yeah, perfection is. I think I try and push that in my games as well. Like, I have made games since I was 8 years old, and essentially each game is just a reversion of the previous game. And this one I'm making now isn't perfect, and I started making this because the one before it wasn't perfect, and I got tired of it not playing how I want. But it's always a process. You're never going to get that perfect game.
That doesn't mean
yeah.
you can't improve your game.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, there's no perfect game. Like people complain about stuff in the big 3 all the time.
Number
yeah.
8 on our list is a really interesting one. And it's about listing out the possibilities for your game. And this is something Lainz brought out to me. And when I thought about it, I'm like, what do you mean? And then I was like, oh, I do exactly this, just different phrasing, right? I think the way you can phrase this is just brainstorm for your game.
Yeah, what I meant, I there's one point where I just like wrote down like every little thing in my game that could be interacted with. It's like, okay, hunters have health and stamina, so you can make things that make stamina and health go down or up. Like they have, their attacks just have damage and an effect, and then they have positions on the board, and you can make them move positions. Then, like I said earlier, the monster has like the row of face down cards, and you can make the order matter. Like that could be a thing that you do. Like they have that, and then you could rearrange the cards, and then you could do things if they're face up or face down, and just like you just do that for everything you can possibly think of that you can interact with in your game. So if you're ever stumped on like card design, you can just like pull up the list and be like, I haven't really messed with that thing that I have yet.
hmm you should plan out many different ways your game can be interacted with. And I will say that doesn't mean you have to include all of those in your first set, your first product.
For
You
sure.
should probably save some of your mechanics for later, introduce people to a easier to play simple version, and have exciting stuff for later. It is important to figure out what your game system is good at. What fun things can your system do?
But I think even beyond the system too, like you said, it's really good to list out the things like a power stat, a health, defense, whatever. But I made a card for my last game, Chaos Galaxy, where it was a quite a powerful sort of reactive card that protected um, cards from the planet Gaios, which is like the forest themed cards. And I was thinking like, oh, I don't want it to have a kind of level limit where it can only work for your weaker cards. And I just put, okay, this will be quite fun. A card that has a one word name is the only thing that this is compatible with. And
Oh, I
then it
love
just
that.
kind of, yeah, and it just kind of worked quite well. It was like, oh, this strange quirk where you can now sort of build an entire deck for this type of card. And then going into the future, if I wanted to make a card that, oh, this is really strong, maybe I don't make it compatible with this trap. I'll just give it a two-word
Two
name, and then
word
I find a way
name.
around it. Yeah,
Yeah, it's cool.
yeah,
You just I guess this point is just like finding how big your design space is.
yeah, yeah. And yeah, sort of making those rules and seeing how you can break them or push them to the limit.
One of my favorite examples of just wacky game design while we're talking about it is Duel Masters in Japan, because Duel Masters lasted much, much longer than it did here. It is still ongoing. They have had dozens upon dozens of sets that English players never got. And one of the cards from one of my favorite sets is all about set symbols. He interacts with set symbols and gives you power boost by the set symbols that you have. And he himself has like 15 different set symbols just listed out in his text. It's goofy, it's weird, and that's the type of design that you might not think of immediately, but you might later.
Use everything you've got. Maybe not all at once, but you just know that everything you could use.
Yeah.
Our next point, and guess what, guys? This is what we are doing right now, is to build your audience, especially before you are launching for sale or on Kickstarter or GameFound or anything like that. I've seen so many people who think that's work that happens when you're done. Zach, I think you kind of cracked the code on this because your videos are you doing exactly this, right?
Yeah, I think I've got lucky. I've not launched a Kickstarter. I don't know if I were to launch one, it would be successful. But yeah, from literally day one, I've been documenting the game and kind of putting it out there. And yeah, it's that's just been so great to help build momentum and kind of give me confidence moving the game forward. Because it is a big risk making a game, putting it on Kickstarter. You put so much time and money into it that like it's such a shame if you don't put any of that into spreading the word of how good your game is.
Yeah, I feel like in multiple creative endeavors, because I've also done music, this is where a lot of people get really lost because they're like, I just want to make the thing. I don't want to have to market it. That's somebody else's job, or it's so good it speaks for itself. But
Yeah.
unfortunately, yeah, you kind of gotta making the good game is like half of what you have to do.
Yeah. And you can do directly what Zack does with videos about your game and its design process. I do know of a couple of other people who have gone down that road. One of them I can think of off the top of my head is Spell Patch TCG. That is a great method. That doesn't mean that's the only thing you can do. You can do something as simple as shit posting on Twitter, right? You can primarily focus on building up your local community. I've seen some games actually have really good success doing that route. You don't necessarily have to be looking for a global reach if you just want to get the people you play with really into a game. That can actually be quite successful. There are ways to go about that in different ways that fit your particular game and your particular needs. But you should be starting those not necessarily right at the beginning, but certainly before you're expecting people to give you money.
Yeah, because some people think that Kickstarter is for this. Is this just reiterating the point? I don't remember if you said or not. Some people think Kickstarter is for marketing, but it kind of isn't. It's like it's a signal booster that takes your existing signal for your game and maybe spreads it out a little bit. It doesn't create the signal though. You got to yell into the void.
And
Very,
even you get
very
more
true.
out of Kickstarter, it seems, once you already have that audience too. Like if you launch a Kickstarter and it gets backed quickly, you then get more people backing it on top of it. It gets pushed to the top. It might get, what's their thing, like their favorite games or their pick of the
Games we love.
yeah, games we love. Yeah. Yeah. It just kind of spreading the word helps. It just becomes a bit of a snowball, really.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's vital to your game success to do that. And that's, there is a market to talk to that is not those people, because there are plenty of game designers that we're talking to today who have no interest whatsoever in making a commercial product. And I just want to say to you, that's awesome. If you're someone out there who's just in it for the love of the game, you're not expecting to actually do, I've seen a lot of people who just make little fun, quirky games on Discord, or they're like, I've got this game of this IP that I will never have the rights to. I just really like it. Sick. Go for it, man. This point is more so for those who are expecting to publish something for realsies, and it's probably going to cost some money to print and make. Which does bring me to a point on our list, which is not number 10. It's actually number 6. I skipped it. My bad. Which is don't unnecessarily spend money. This is my soapbox here, but I know you guys can talk about this as well. You've got some great examples. Heck, I saw this in one of your videos. You joked. I think you were telling the truth, but I'll count it as a joke just in case for legal reasons. That you were using your works printer to print off all your card products at one point.
That was a joke. I'm not using my work printer to make my prototypes. Yeah.
Yeah. My point is, there are a lot of people who spend money unnecessarily. There are lots of great ways to spend money to make your game better, but there are also a lot of really big pitfalls you could get into with spending money. I have seen people who are making a cute little game that realistically is going to sell 20 copies, spend over $1,000 on a single like demo copy to demonstrate with their friends because they needed it to be textured and foiled and glow in the dark and have special stickers and be like super cool, and it has to be 400 GSM black core, Japanese black core with UV coating on it, and it's like, no, just grab some note cards to start. Right.
Yeah, I would also say that if that is what kind of brings you joy, if you are making a game that's just going to be small, but you want that to feel professional, and that's what you prioritize in your game, like, go for it. There's no right or wrong way. If you want to spend money and you have the money, go for it. And if that like gives you the confidence to make you feel better about your game and more willing to show it to other people, if it's like done professionally. Because I kind of get scared showing people prototypes of my games if it's just scribbles on paper. I'm like, no one's going to want to play this with me. But it's up to you. But I think, the spending money on your
consider
game,
your purchases before you make them is the
definitely. And you're right, it can really put people off making a game, but it doesn't need to be, like all those things you said. It can just be scraps of paper you've made at home or printed on
Especially
your work printer.
if you're not the artist.
Yes.
I think it was not maybe almost a year into making our game where we're like, yeah, this is actually pretty good. We should start getting art for it because that's definitely not cheap.
Yeah, actually, a great point on that. And this is what you're saying. I'm just reiterating it to be clear. I'm not stealing your idea like I did last episode. If you're like, I want to make a game, and the first thing you're doing is, I'm going to go out and get a bunch of art commissions for $500 a pop, you're doing something wrong. Don't start with the things that cost money. Get to a viable place where you're comfortable first, if you can.
Unless you just really wanna, I guess. If it's like Zach said, if you're good, like, this $5,000, whatever. I'll get some card art done, and then I'll figure out the game later. But yeah, if you don't have it, don't spend it. Or like, I've seen games be at cons where they have they have no product, and it's just kind of like, it costs money to be at cons, and they're like, "Hey, remember us a year from now?" I'm like,
Mhm.
I don't understand.
Yeah, or another example is just overspending at a convention. If you're someone who's going with a booth, right? You could probably get by with like a little tiny hole in the wall booth just to show off. But no, no, no. I'm gonna be the biggest game in the world. I need a huge booth that takes up an entire aisle, and it's got lights and it's got TVs and it's got this and that, and we're giving out 600 promo cards, and you got to get them. Like, that'll get you some attention, yes, but it probably won't get you a good return on investment. The same with, and again, this is my opinion here. I'm not vouching for everyone here, but one of the things that turns me off the most with people designing games is when they spend big, big, big amounts of money on cash prize tournaments. I've talked about this before. I know there are people out there who disagree with me on this, but this is a big thing for me. If I'm seeing a game that isn't consistently getting sales, doing a big $10,000 tournament, I'm just like, oh, okay, so you don't actually know what you're doing, and you're just trying to bribe your way to success.
I think playing some indie game tournaments, I feel like the cash prizes don't actually get you that much more people invested. It's
And
just the 2 or
long
3
term,
people
right?
that are invested are just gonna take all your money. And then
Yeah.
the people that are like, "Wow, this seems like a cool game," and they get absolutely bodied probably by the person that's like, I've studied the entire card pool and I've discovered an infinite loop, you know, which is me. That's me. I'm going to ruin all your new players' days on your tournament.
Moving on to number 10 on our list, and this is saved for last because it is actually maybe the single most important, but it is also the single simplest. Play test your game.
Hey, Jacob, I'm sorry, but I accidentally turned number 10 into number 1. Hey, play test your game is so important, it should be on here twice. Play game. Gee, some people that I talk to have their game and they'll love to say paragraphs and paragraphs about their design ethos or their lore or whatever. Then you ask them to play their game and they're like, just play it. You got to play it. You can't. Game design is like an iterative process. You got to do it.
The big point for me is there is never a point in the design process from start to end where playtesting your game isn't important. Anytime you make a change, sure, you can probably get away with it if you're just adjusting one card's stats a little to nerf it or buff it, right? But you should be playtesting every major change you make and playtesting often. And my favorite version of playtesting, which I know, bunch of introverts here, but please, if you can do this, do it. My favorite version of playtesting, and the one I think is truly, truly the most useful, is you as the game designer sitting on the sidelines watching other people play your game that have not experienced it before.
The double blind playtest, the hardest one to get.
Zack, have you done any like blind playtesting with people like that?
I have. I've done a couple of games that unfortunately they didn't want to be featured on the YouTube channel, but I have a couple of friends, one of them who's my flatmate who has sort of popped up in a couple of videos. And they're not TCG people really. And they played the game and kind of got the hang of it. It took them about half of a full playtest to get the hang of what was going on. And that first half was a struggle. But afterwards, I kind of really tried to keep my distance, and it did end up being quite a successful playtest, which was good. And then they wanted to play again after, and they were looking through the decks and being like, "Oh, I wish I drew this card." And I was like, "Oh, that's even so much more satisfying than me playing against someone else." And yeah,
I never know how hard to go. If you're playing against somebody new, you're like, well, if I play as hard as I can and they don't know the game, then I completely destroy them. They'll probably be like, that wasn't very fun. But every time I'm like, this is mean, I shouldn't do this, I get absolutely blown out and destroyed. And I'm like, well, I guess that's probably better.
yeah.
I think it's useful advice that when you are doing a blind playtest with people who have not played your game before, that you offer as little help as you can.
For sure.
I think that's actually important for, making sure your rules make sense to people and that they have fun independently. You're simulating what it will be like when someone actually buys your product, right? I think it's painful to do that. It's like, oh my God, they're doing it wrong. You're dying on the inside, but that's useful, valuable information.
And even if they are playing it a bit wrong, like we might not like that as creators, and our nitpicky brains will be like, they're not doing it right. But like, they'll be having as much fun playing the game slightly wrong as, I don't know, when we were collecting Yu-Gi-Oh cards in the playground and just looking at the attack and throwing them down and stuff. And it's not, even if they're not playing it right, they're still enjoying your product at the end of the day.
That's true. I can definitely remember playing Yu-Gi-Oh with somebody when we were like, 10, 11, 12, somewhere in there. He's like, I played Guy of the Fierce Knight. And I'm like, you got a tribute for that. And he's like, I got a what?
That was me. I was that other guy.
I also have a little bonus tip that's part of this one, which is when you do have other people playtest your game, whether or not they're playing with you or someone else, you should ask them a couple of questions as you're playtesting. In particular, after we're done playtesting, I like to ask them, what was your favorite card? and what was your least favorite card? And I make sure, going back to keeping organized, I record all of those answers. So if I'm consistently being told this one card sucks, it's boring, I know, hey, that's a card that probably needs some buffs and or be reworked to be more exciting. I think that's really useful information. That's not necessarily the questions you have to ask. You should know what questions you have to ask because generally it's a good idea to play test with a question in mind. You know, what are you trying to figure out from this playtest? Have a goal in mind.
I agree. Yeah, I always ask that the favorite card and least favorite card question. It's fun.
I'm not sure I've done that one. I've done favorite and least favorite thing about the game, but I haven't done specific cards.
There are a lot of methods to go about it. It is genuinely really helpful to have some notes open while people are playtesting, because if they come up with something while they're playing, you should have it written down so you don't forget it. Like I had one game I was playing with someone of Junk World when it was in design, and I had my notes open, and they found a typo on a card. Right? Da, 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 da. Okay, let's continue playing. You get to keep moving on, and then you come back after it's done, and you're like, okay, so what are the 5 things that I need to adjust or change based on that playtesting?
I've had far more YouTube comments than I'd like to admit spotting typos in card titles and abilities.
Yeah. See, it must be a unique experience for you because I am a content creator, have been for years. Two Lainz is a content creator. We've both made many videos. We've both gotten more than our fair share of hate messages. I am sure. Maybe it's just me, actually.
Yeah, idiot. It's just
Oh.
you, stupid.
But
No.
you are having that
It's you two
in the
commenting on each
design.
other, isn't it?
Dude,
Yeah.
when I used to do music things, that's the most hate comments I ever got. Are like, "Oh, this is cringe. This is stupid. This is untalented Hollywood undead." And I'm like, who?
Well, I
Ah,
get them because I'm an idiot with no filter, and I'll just say things. And then also because, the whole blind thing. That's, those ones are nice though, because when I get a comment like that, it means like, oh, okay, anything else you say is just invalid, huh?
I
Yeah.
had one old game review. Sorry, Jacob,
No, it's
where
okay.
it was for this game called Undermine, where you're like trying to make sure a train doesn't crash by making more tracks so it keeps running. Really cool game. You should play not Undermine, Unrailed. Undermine, different game. Unrailed. And there's like dynamite you can get, and I say you can blow up the gray rocks. You can't blow up the gray rocks with dynamite. You can't blow up the gray rocks at all. One of my coworkers held that over me for like years. Every time I said anything wrong, he would turn around and be like, "You could blow up the gray rocks, huh?" Man.
How has that been different for you? As your design process has been very, very public. I'm sure you get all the same types of comments we've gotten over the years. We've talked a lot before about having to filter out negative feedback and figure out what's valuable or not. What's that like publicly?
Yeah, it's really hard to not question yourself. And for every comment you get saying you'll change something, you'll get another one saying that they like that aspect. And it's really hard. But I think a lot of the time is just go with your gut. Like it is, it's great to take on board things that other people say about your game. But at the end of the day, you know your game better than these people, and you should really know what's best for it. So it's such a useful tool getting this like constant feedback in between episodes. But you have to take it all with a pinch of salt.
You said something that happened to me. It was so good. It was back-to-back playtests. First playtest, we finished playing and the person says, "Man, hunters in this game feel like they're in molasses. They don't do anything at all. They feel so bad." And then the exact next playtest, the person said, "Wow, hunters get to do everything. Monster can't do anything." So I was like, "Oh, that's great." Unsolicited YouTube comment feedback on card games. Some card game players have some spicy opinions that are just like really out there random.
They do. Did you? I once got a diss track made about me by another creator who I don't think is part of the community anymore. the sort of HTCG, very sort of homemade crafted
Who
games.
did that? I didn't know about that. That's funny.
Yeah, I think he was looking for clout himself. Like he was looking for a response, so that I essentially just give him a shout out. And I wrote like half a verse, and then his video got taken down because it did get quite a lot of negative feedback. People were commenting on it like, "Oh, Zack's fine. Like he hasn't done anything wrong." But yeah, that
Do
was
you want
quite
a new
funny.
diss track? I can get you one.
Go on then. Yeah.
No.
Freestyle it now.
No freestyle.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Zack, for joining us and talking with us about the design process. Are you open to questions and follow-ups if people want to leave them in the comments? Will you?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I said I was doing a podcast with Zack in the homemade trading card game server, and like immediately 3 people asked me to ask you random questions about your game.
Oh,
and I'm
do you
like,
have them now? I can.
No, I was like, that's not the topic. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I could probably go find them again.
maybe
Yeah, I mean,
maybe it's time for a new Q&A video.
yeah.
I think that game design can be daunting. It can be a lot of work. It can be stressful. But if I can end us off on one important note, it's that it never hurts to try. And that goes for everything. And I know that's such a cliche thing to say, but like, start doing it, man. Give it a shot. You might surprise yourself.
And there is no right or wrong way to do it too. Like if it is just starting off with you with some scraps of paper, running around from one side of the table to the other back and forth, like there's no better way to start than that. And you can get to showing the game to other people later down the line if you don't feel ready. And this just go at your own pace, but do just get
my business partner and frequent co-host Rydon, he calls that, I don't know if this is a thing other people call it. The only person I ever hear use it is him. He calls it shadow boxing. And that sounds way more cool than what it actually is.
Yeah, that's right.
You're fighting with your shadow.
Yeah.
The thing that sucks about my game is I don't know if you can goldfish it because like one side is completely based off hidden information. So if you just know what it is, it's really hard to like, all right, well, I don't know what it is.
Okay, so what you do, there is a solution. You take your turn, then you grab a lead pipe and you hit yourself with it. You forget the last moments, you run across the table, and then you play your turn, grab the lead pipe, repeat.
Wow. I'll have to try that out. Sounds great.